Nobody talks about the hustlers who didn't just play the game. They rewrote the rules. Not the loud ones, not the ones always in trouble, but the quiet, calculated ones who moved like ghosts and made money off people who thought they were too smart to get played. Carl Smitty Smith was one of those names. In the streets of Houston, he wasn't just known, he was felt. His presence turned heads, his lifestyle raised questions, and his methods left people confused, embarrassed, and sometimes scared to even speak. If you're already locked in, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment. You're about to hear a story most people don't break down like this. Carl Smitty. Smith didn't look like your average hustler. That was his first advantage. While most guys tried to stay low, Smitty made sure he was seen, but only on his terms. He pulled up in Rolls Royces, wore Rolex watches, and drove customized cars that demanded attention. In Houston's slab culture, where style and presence mattered, Smitty stood out. He didn't just blend in, he dominated the scene. But here's where it gets interesting. That image wasn't just for show, it was a shield. People saw the cars, the jewelry, the women, the VIP sections, and they made assumptions, big assumptions. They believed he was connected. They believed he had real power. And most importantly, they believed he had no reason to scam anyone. That belief, that was his weapon. Smitty didn't hustle like everyone else. He didn't stick to one lane. He didn't follow street rules. Instead, he built his name on deception, manipulation, and timing. He robbed plugs. He sold fake bricks. He set up his own clients. And somehow, he stayed untouched for nearly a decade. That's not luck. That's strategy, see? Most hustlers depend on reputation and consistency. Smitty depended on confusion. He kept people guessing, always moving, never staying still long enough for anyone to figure him out. And in the streets, confusion can be more powerful than fear. One of Smitty's greatest strengths was how he moved. He didn't stay in one city too long. Houston was home, but he operated in places like Austin, Dallas, and Fort Worth. In those cities, he wasn't known. No history, no enemies, no paperwork on his name. That made him dangerous. When you're unknown, people give you the benefit of the doubt. They don't question you as much. They assume you're legit, especially if you look the part. Smitty took full advantage of that. He rotated cities carefully. He never came back too soon. By the time people realized something wasn't right, he was already gone. And when he came back, new name, new story, same game. Smitty had a simple but effective pitch. He would tell people he was a plug from Houston with access to cheap, high-quality product. He made it sound like a blessing, like he was doing people a favor. And that's where the trap started. He created urgency. I only got this much. I'm heading back soon. Someone else is already trying to grab it. That pressure made people act fast. No time to think, no time to test. Just trust and pay. And once the money was in his hands, he disappeared. By the time buyers realized they had fake product, Smitty was already miles away, cruising down I-35 like nothing happened. Here's the part most people didn't know. Smitty didn't always scam people right away. In fact, he did the opposite. At first, he sold real product. For months, he built trust. He made people comfortable. He gave them clean work, fair deals, and consistent results. People started vouching for him. His name carried weight, and then he flipped the switch. When someone finally placed a big order, thinking they were dealing with someone solid, that's when Smitty made his move. Fake bricks, cut product, straight up garbage wrapped to look real. By that point, it was too late. The trust was already built. The money was already gone. That's not just a scam. That's patience. That's strategy. That's a long game. Most people don't have the discipline to play. Smitty didn't go after the biggest bosses. He went after the ones trying to become bosses, mid-level hustlers, ambitious guys, the ones hungry for a come-up. Why? Because they were easier to manipulate. They wanted a shortcut. They wanted a big score. They were willing to take risks to level up. Smitty offered them exactly what they wanted, a deal that looked too good to pass up. And just like that, they walked right into it. Greed clouded their judgment, and Smitty knew it would. But Smitty didn't just rely on scams. He understood something deeper about the streets. Fear can protect you just as much as money. Rumors started spreading. People said if you crossed him, you might get set up. Some said people went missing. Others said bodies showed up tied to his name. Whether all of it was true didn't matter. What mattered was that people believed it. That belief kept people quiet. It stopped the retaliation before it even started. Nobody wanted to press him over lost money if it meant risking their life. His reputation became his armor. Most hustlers tried to stay invisible. Smitty did the opposite. He stayed in the spotlight. Clubs, VIP sections, photos with known faces, always around attention. And somehow, that made him less suspicious. People would say, "There's no way he's dirty. He's too out there." That's the trick. When people think they see everything, they stop looking deeper. Smitty used visibility as camouflage. He turned attention into protection. Check out the blind mice method. One of his most calculated moves was something straight out of a movie. Smitty rarely handled deals himself. Instead, he used middlemen, women, runners, or people who didn't even know they were part of a setup. They were the blind mice. They believed the product was real. They believed the deal was legit. So when they delivered it, everything looked natural. And if something went wrong, they couldn't give up Smitty because they didn't know anything. That made retaliation almost impossible. No face, no direct link, no proof, just another dead end. Discipline and silence. Smitty's success wasn't just about being slick. It was about being disciplined. He didn't keep the product at his house. He didn't talk business openly. He didn't use phones the way people do today. Everything was face-to-face or through trusted channels. He stayed mobile, detached, untraceable. And that's why law enforcement couldn't pin anything on him. In a time before social media and digital trails, that kind of discipline made him nearly invisible. When you really look at Smitty's story, it hits different. Part of you respects the strategy, the patience, the intelligence it took to outmaneuver so many people for so long. But another part, it makes you uneasy because everything he built came from deception, from setting people up, from playing on trust and turning it into a weapon. And in the streets, that kind of reputation doesn't just disappear. It follows you. Smitty's story isn't just about one man. It's about how perception shapes reality. He proved that if you look powerful enough, people will treat you like you are. If you move confidently enough, people won't question you. And if you understand human behavior, greed, fear, ego, you can control situations without ever raising your voice. That's what made him different. He wasn't just hustling, he was studying people. Carl Smitty Smith didn't win because he was the strongest or the loudest. He won because he understood something most people ignore. People don't see the truth. They see what they expect to see. And he built his entire game around that. But here's the reality. That kind of life always comes with consequences. Maybe not right away, maybe not in ways people expect, but nothing built on deception lasts forever. Still, for a time, Smitty mastered the game in a way few ever have. But here's the part people don't always think about. Living like Smitty did comes with pressure, constant pressure. When you build your name off deception, you can't relax, you can't slip up, you can't trust too many people. Every move has to be calculated. Every conversation has to be controlled because all it takes is one mistake, one wrong person connecting the dots, and everything starts to fall apart. Think about it. How long can someone really move like a ghost? How long can you keep changing names, switching cities, and running the same game before someone catches on? Even if the streets don't catch you, time eventually does. Because the more people you cross, the more chances there are for someone to speak up. Or worse, take matters into their own hands. And in that world, revenge doesn't come with a warning. One of the most dangerous things about Smitty's lifestyle was the enemies he never saw coming. See, when you rob someone or scam them, not everyone reacts the same way. Some people get loud, some people go looking for you, but others, they stay quiet. They watch, they wait, they gather information, and those are the ones you really have to worry about. Because while Smitty was moving city to city, thinking he was always one step ahead. There were people out there piecing things together, comparing stories, noticing patterns, the same style, the same pitch, the same outcome. Eventually, patterns turn into proof, and proof turns into problems. Smitty built a reputation that protected him, but that same reputation could also trap him. Fear kept people from confronting him directly, but it also made people resent him. Nobody likes feeling played. Nobody likes looking foolish. And in the streets, pride is everything. So even if someone didn't act right away, that anger didn't just disappear. It sat there, waiting. That's the risk when your name rings loud for the wrong reasons. You don't just gain attention, you attract the wrong kind of attention. And once your name is tied to scams, setups, and betrayal, it's hard to ever move differently again, because people stop seeing you as a businessman. They start seeing you as a target. Now let's keep it real for a second. Yeah, Smitty was smart. Yeah, his strategy worked for a long time. But this isn't something to admire without understanding the cost. There's a difference between being clever and being reckless in a smart way. Smitty made money, but he also created a life where he always had to look over his shoulder. No peace, no stability, no real trust. And that's the part people don't show. The cars, the jewelry, the lifestyle, that's the highlight reel. But the stress, the paranoia, the enemies, that's the full story. Stories like Smitty's hit different because they show how the game really works behind the scenes. It's not always about a court or who's the toughest. Sometimes it's about psychology, understanding people, reading situations, knowing when to move and when to disappear. But it also shows you how fast things can go left when everything is built on manipulation. Because at the end of the day, every move has consequences. And eventually, those consequences catch up. Carl Smitty. Smith wasn't just another hustler. He was a strategist, a manipulator, a man who understood perception better than most and used it to his advantage. For years, he stayed ahead of the streets and the law. But the real question is, at what cost? If you made it this far, you already know this story goes deeper than most people realize. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and let me know what you think about Smitty's methods. Was he a genius, or was it only a matter of time before it all caught up to him? Subscribe if you're new. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next breakdown, and watch the video below for more true crime stories that most people aren't talking about.